I'd like to welcome you to the December 2013 Suffolk County Council on Environmental Quality meeting. I just want to remind everyone this is a public meeting. If you have something you would like to address on one of our items on the agenda, please feel free to do so at that time when we're discussing that item. I want to first go over the minutes from October 2013. Has anyone had a chance to review them? Mary Ann, any changes? Everything okay?
I recommend that we approve them.
Okay, make a motion.
I so move.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
By Larry, all in favor? Motion.
Abstain.
Abstain. Okay.
Wasn't here.
Okay. All righty, correspondence. We have one thing in our packets, information regarding the health and environment as it pertains to the deer population. Has everyone had a chance to look at that? Did we get that?
I
No.
didn't see it in
That was
my
in last
packet.
I think it was emailed out to
Emailed
everybody.
out, so everyone
Oh.
saw that, all right?
I didn't see it.
Okay,
Oh,
that was
that was a
emailed
while
out?
ago, yeah.
Yeah, because we
Yeah.
had last meeting.
It wasn't
canceled.
recently, Larry.
All right, and,
We could get you a copy if.
yeah, and she's concerned about the overpopulation.
A copy here
of
if you
Long
want.
Island, and what to do about it.
Here's a
And
copy.
order to our attention.
Larry?
And if you read the paper, I think they're already taking measures
Yes.
to
Larry?
control the population.
Yes.
New York State DEC is doing that.
Yes, they're gonna do a culling of the herd this winter.
I'd like to suggest you introduce wolves.
I'm right behind you, Larry, for an ecologically balanced system with prey and predator. Yes, sir, please state your name, please.
Al Krupski, Suffolk County Legislator, 1st District. And we do have a tremendous, if I would appreciate if everyone would take a look at the letter. We do have a tremendous deer population. We've been working with the DEC as a township in Suffolk for years on a deer management level, try to get the DEC to give the town better opportunities to control the deer population. While the DEC has been cooperative in attending the meetings, they've been reluctant to actually make any substantial changes that would affect the population. So they send their biologists, and then we get them acquainted with what the reality is in Southold, and he moves on, and they send another biologist, and it's kind of a rotation of new people. So if everyone could take a look at that, I don't know what role the county can play, except to support the idea that the deer culling, the federal people coming in to do the culling, it's kind of a Band-Aid. I mean, you really need to have a more progressive, open-minded approach to cutting the population way down. And if you saw the devegetation that's taking place in the open space, it's unbelievable. Now, we saw that on Robbins Island years ago, where the population was basically starving, because there were so many deer. There was nothing in the understory. The new owner, Louis Bacon, fenced off a small area, probably the size of this building, and just to see what would happen. And in a couple of years, the forest did regenerate itself. But without that, and then he was able to cull the herd down to a very manageable level from 400 plus acres. So, but without that kind of management, you just have no chance at all, because they overpopulate so much. And the letter does state all the other reasons that the deer are a problem. Obviously, the tick-borne illness is a huge problem, and the incidence of car strikes.
I can't believe 450 just south of 1 year.
That's reported. Those are reported.
Yeah.
And I saw one objection to people saying, oh, when they looked into the eyes of the deer and all that. And the comment back was that the last time this guy looked into the eyes of a deer, it was coming through his windshield. So it's very traumatic when people hit a deer. There have been loss of life. So it's a serious matter, and any help we can have, convincing the DEC that we need to look at it as pest management and not as wildlife control would be helpful.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to add, in reading her letter when it came in initially to us, the bulk of the control of the issue with allowing us what we can choose to do is really based on the state with the DEC, and the county itself, of course, can't proceed doing its own thing.
Right, but it's really political at this point. You need to put pressure on people who are making the decisions to be realistic about, and I've heard people in the state now have say that their management efforts have not succeeded, they've failed in that. And so they need to make some drastic changes, but it takes a lot of pressure to get there and then to actually make a decision to move forward.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All righty, Historic Trust Talk.
Morning.
Morning, Mr.
The housing program, we had a open house this past Saturday for the 2 vacancies that we had. One at Conda Hall in the main house there, we have an apartment, and one in the house on the south side of Blydenburg County Park. And both, we found people for both of those units, and they're both Suffolk County police officers. And so that's good to hear, especially for Conda Hall. The tenant just moved out, so we quickly filled it with the Suffolk County police officer there. And over the years, we have had some vandalism, so it's good to have a presence on site. And otherwise, all of our buildings and apartments are filled. In our contracts division, the custodial agreements, I can say, are almost stuck at this time. There's not a lot of movement on them, which is frustrating. And I want to explain at this meeting one of the reasons why. And the staff has been reduced in the division of contracts in Suffolk County Parks, and also their responsibilities have been increased with the over 40 grant contracts that they work on, which they give out to different historic societies in Suffolk County, and this is funded from the Suffolk County Hotel Motel tax. And these, some of the contracts go through economic development, and others go through Suffolk County Parks. And there's 10 out of the 40, there are 10 grants that actually go to historic societies that are at our county historic sites. So actually it's a growing program, and it has been very useful, especially at the Yaphank Historic Society is doing a lot of work with the funding that they get. And so that's also supervised from Historic Services, the projects and the work that they get funded from the county hotel motel tax. But it does eat up a lot of time in that division.
Anything else?
Nope.
Thank you very much. Go ahead.
Maybe you've looked into this, but if you haven't, I'd at least like you to look into it. There's a house near me that is historic, dates to 1744, I think, and is was in the Adams family. It's John Adams, not Charles Adams, and it's not in the best shape, but you might look at it because I think it is of probably of historic significance.
And where is it located?
It's located on Harvard Hill Road, just down the hill from the general store, but before the county parkland that you acquired just a few years ago from Alexander Randall.
Okay.
And
Do you have a street address?
I don't have a house number, but you will recognize it. As you go down the hill, it's on the right-hand side.
Okay.
It's a little house. The roof is not in great shape. The situation is that it was owned by a man that died a couple of years ago at the age of 95, and he had a reverse mortgage on it. So a bank owns it now, and you might be able to work together with the village of Head of the Harbor to do something with it.
Is it contiguous to that parkland you mentioned, or something?
It is not contiguous to it. My house is in between.
Okay.
But anyway, it might be, I'm not good at knowing all about these houses, but
Yeah, we can
you might
take a look
just
into
look
the
at it.
history of it and get back to you.
yeah, I think Barbara Van Loo has it in her SPLEA listing years ago.
Okay. Is it listed for sale now? Or
It is
through the
listed
bank?
for sale now. But I think, you know, they're probably asking, it's only on a quarter-acre property. So it would, it's in a 2-acre zoned area, so there's not going to be a lot of people that probably want to buy it.
Okay, take a look.
Thank you.
All right, project review. Recommended unlisted actions. Proposed remediation of stormwater flooding in the vicinity of the North Fork Preserve, town of Riverhead. Good morning. Please
Good
state your
morning.
name.
Hello, my name is Chris Polker. I'm from Suffolk County Department of Public Works. I'm returning today to present to you the finalized design on the North Fork Preserve and to answer some of your questions that you had. Our design really hasn't changed much on this plan. Pipe system 1 has been reduced to a 30-inch pipe. Pipe system 2 has remained to a 36-inch pipe. The pipe system number 3 has been removed from the project because there is a lot of problems with easements. So that part of the project has been suspended. We were asked about the end treatments, so we designed a staircase to go on the end of it that's going to hide the head wall. As you'll see in the rendering on the top there, it might be hard for you to see from there. And another question that you had was the flow of the pipes, how much water would be going through each one of these systems. And for the first pipe system, we calculated 30 CFS, which would give, that's how we sized the 30-inch pipe. And for the second, the center pipe system on the project, we came up with 50 CFS, which will remain at a 36-inch pipe. One of the questions that we had was whether we could put stormwater treatment systems into add that into the project, and we believe that it won't be a great benefit, and that our leaching basins will help achieve what we're looking to do. Currently, the EC permit is in the process, and the other question which you had was asked us to put topography on the plan, so we did that also. So, we believe we have a pretty good finalized design on the project, as you can see if you look at the plan, and we'd just like your approval to progress with this.
Any questions? No, we did have quite a few remarks previously.
Yeah,
Addressed them all.
I feel like, try to address all your remarks that you had. I'm not sure if you have any new ones.
Yeah, that's my concern. Does anyone have any more questions? Rich, do you want to? If there's no further questions, is someone willing to make a motion?
I'm Mr. Deck.
Okay.
Second.
Seconded by Larry, all in favor? Motion passed.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for making those changes.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Have a great day.
Proposed acquisition of land by Suffolk County for active recreation purposes known as the North Fork Preserve Incorporated 4 property, town of Riverhead.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. That's the red, and she had to get something. Yeah. Great talk.
That's because we put the pumping in, we're liable for it. All the stormwater that we're running off.
No, I'm talking about the next one.
Oh,
For the next one.
The next one is really elaborate, it's all this. Stop. I don't know why they're doing another point table.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Nick? Can she start first? Loretta's back.
Good morning, Loretta.
Good morning. Good
I announced the
morning.
next one and you weren't there. I was like, uh-oh.
Sorry for that. The first one before you today is the approval of the acquisition of the residual fee of the North Fork Preserve 4 property. On your map, this is the property outlined in red. It's approximately 50 acres in size. County acquired the development rights for farmland protection previously, and we are now in the process of acquiring the residual underlying fee to the property for an equestrian center development.
Loretta, could you
Yes.
please just describe what that term means, the residual fee underlying?
That the county, in its farmland program, buys the development rights to a property for farmland protection. And the value of that is about approximately 80 to 90% of the value of the land. The remaining or residual portion of the value of the property is what we call the residual fee title, which is the remaining portion of the title. And so the residual fee in a normal farmland transaction would stay with the farmer. In this transaction, we, as the county, would buy the underlying fee to complete the acquisition of the property in total. This is adjacent to the acquisition last year of the North Fork Preserve to the east, which was about 300 acres. The northern portion of that was for passive recreation. The southern portion, approximately 150 acres each, was for active recreation. This would be adjacent to primarily the active recreation component of the North Fork acquisition last year, and this property will be developed as an equestrian center, which will include the following: corral. As you can see on the addendum A, the property will include 3 corral areas, stable, and indoor arena, 2 indoor arena areas, paddocks, and parking, as well as a maintenance building. There will be a road driveway from Sound Avenue, which is off the parcel, but if you look on this original, the first map you have, you'll see that the parcel forks down to Sound Avenue.
So Loretta, are you building a stable in the arenas, or are they already
Yes.
there?
No, none of these structures are there at the present time. It's fallow land at the present time, no structures.
And who's gonna build this?
This is the Parks Department's project.
Parks has money for this?
Well, we can jump around a little bit. Did you want to introduce any more of the EAF itself, or we
No,
can just go through the?
yeah,
Okay.
Nick, you can go for, yeah. no
I just want to
problem.
go, I go right back to the attachments here, the final 3 pages. I don't want to start with that, and just give you an idea for, Loretta had mentioned the 300-acre North Fork Preserve property to the east. Again, acquired for 2 different reasons: passive recreation on the northern portion and active rec on the southern portion. This equestrian use, as we envision it, would be appropriate on either parcel. So the passive rec is just the northern 175 acres, and the active rec, which is the lower 125 acres, would all be at least theoretically available for the equestrian use. When the property to the west, the North Fork, what we're calling North Fork Preserve Equestrian Center, became available from the same sellers, I believe, I was interested because I felt like it would fit in as an amenity and enhancement to the active rec vision we have, and you've seen the conceptual plan here before for North Fork Preserve, and because through the Equestrian Task Force work of the counties from several years back, it was identified that this was a need within the county that is currently underserved. We do have, or have had, equestrian centers within the Parks Department before. Some of them still exist and others have since failed. The current ones we have are West Hills County Park in Huntington and Montauk County Park in Montauk. And the previous others we had were in South Haven County Park and in Sears Bellows. Those two have since those uses have been discontinued. And the Equestrian Task Force identified that a more formal setting like this, in particular the indoor arena space, is of critical need in Suffolk County is underserved. So the concept was for us to, and I'll jump back now to the conceptual site plan, which is at the end of part 3. This is the first attachment here. This is something I developed first because it's a requirement of, at this point of secret, to have a conceptual site plan. It's our best guess of what this site would look like. It is not, however, a guarantee. However, if there's a great deviation from what's proposed here, we will come back to you. To answer Jim's point, no, it will not be built by parks. It will go out for an RFP where a concessionaire would come in and they would have to invest the capital improvements necessary for this to move forward. Yes, it is expensive. The county does not have a budget for this. But we do believe that there's enough interest that even though the prospective concessionaire would not own the facilities or the property, that it fits the equestrian business model as identified in the Equestrian Task Force, which again goes back a number of years.
Could you explain, Nick, why the other two, I think you said South Haven Park and another one, why those equestrian centers closed?
Yes, I can do that. Part of it is that both of those sites happen to be within the core preservation area of the Pine Barrens. It precludes any significant expansion of development of those facilities. A critical piece to this, in addition to the indoor arenas, is this stables, these boarding. That revenue is very significant for any of these equestrian operations. Really the hack riding in the parks, the part of it that I'm most interested in as it relates to North Fork Preserve Park someday, is really, my understanding is a somewhat inconsequential revenue for the equestrian center. So it's a nice amenity for people who are using the park to be able to go on a hack ride through the park, for sure, but it's not a big part of the economic piece of what makes these a successful operation. The stables and the indoor arena, excuse me, are. So at South Haven and at Sears, development of indoor spaces like this was precluded by the environmental protections, regulations that those properties are subject to.
Marianne?
It seems to me that you didn't mention another Suffolk County property that is in fact a stable, and that's up by West Meadow.
It doesn't house horses.
But
It doesn't actually house horses there year-round.
it doesn't have horses year-round, but it's owned by the county. It's maintained by a private.
It's a joint.
It's a joint venture. It needs more attention and more money from the county, and it's a marvelous success. And I don't understand why well, I mean, you're saying we wouldn't pay for this, but I'd like to see some more support go to the woman who's doing, and the county did put money in, help me with the name.
Yes, the arena.
Oldfield.
Sally Lynch.
Yeah, what's the name of her?
Oldfield Farm.
Yeah, so the county paid for the outdoor arena at Oldfield Farms, which was very expensive, and they need an indoor arena.
You mean at Oldfield Farm?
I do mean at Oldfield Farms.
And Oldfield Farm is the entire site, I believe, is within the historic trust.
Yes, it is.
And there was an indoor arena there at one time?
No.
No, no.
So,
She could use that.
okay, well, it was an oversight on my part not to mention the Oldfield Farm.
Okay,
I'm very fond of the site as well.
good, okay. Thank you.
For what that's worth, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I am
There-
too. I am too.
Unfortunately, there are huge restrictions on what can be done there.
Yes.
Yeah,
because
but
of
she
the-
has managed within that, and she could have an
We need to
indoor.
fight some of that.
What?
We need
I'm
to
not
fight
sure.
that.
Rich could jump in as far as in terms of the historic integrity of the site and whether or not these structures are significant. I'm not exactly sure if the site would accommodate it. Something we could look into.
I can just say that she would like to do that.
Yeah, and we've looked at it. The committee's looked at it. It's not out of the question.
But can't she only bring in horses 5 days a year?
There is a limit.
Yeah.
There is a limit.
So we would build an indoor arena for something that can only be
She
used
would
5
do.
days a year?
She would do. She needs more support than we've given her.
No, there's no question about it. I think we need to figure
And
out
she,
how valid
she
those.
deals with that site, and I know it's very delicate, but she takes everything off-site. All right? I mean, but the buildings are historic. She's preserved several of them by herself, stabilized a few others. And the county did pay for the outdoor arena there, which was done at the highest standards.
Which was
Oh, I know.
pre-existing though,
I'm
right? I
very
would say it's an improvement to a pre-existing.
Well, we upgraded
No,
it.
it was upgraded.
Oh, yes, no, I know that.
Yeah.
The entire drainage system and the architect that was brought in, I was here for that.
Yeah, yeah.
In my mind, I think of that as that site is as status quo. Yes, the building certainly needed restoration, but I didn't know that there was an opportunity perhaps for expansion of construction on the historic site.
Well,
This is the first I ever heard that.
the committee's looked at it.
Yes, she would like to do that.
She would like to do that, and, you know, where some of the buildings that are untenable and are going to be lost, there is space for an indoor arena. That would change, you know, she needs that, to continue her operation.
Okay, but she would like to do it, but we have to go back to what the agreement is for the historic site. Can that be allowed to have
It's
one?
like in the lease or in the deed,
Yeah.
there's
Which is
restrictions.
very complicated,
Yeah.
yes.
Limit
Yeah.
to the amount of
Yeah.
events you can have, but I don't think it would preclude, doing this, but it needs to be reviewed
Yeah.
here. But I think it's out of the question for the
Okay.
guidelines that she's working with.
Okay.
It is not.
I don't think.
No, we don't think so, yeah.
Yeah, the problem is that's on the North Shore, and that's on the road going up there is not the best in the world, and the local residents, I don't necessarily know if they're gonna want to have, increased.
It wouldn't increase her events.
No.
It wouldn't increase the traffic because of the restrictions that she has.
In other words, she could use an
She would like an indoor. Yeah.
indoor arena for the
I don't,
5
I mean,
days.
I brought all of this up because Nick didn't mention it, and now he's.
He's getting a headache.
So, I just wanted everyone to be mindful of
Okay.
this marvelous,
Exists.
historic,
It
existing,
is a beautiful site.
okay?
Larry?
Would you have a restriction on the number of horses here?
Yes, let me get into the restrictions
Yeah,
too.
And this is huge, the stable, right? I mean, how many, do you
How many
have a
would fit?
sense of how many stalls there would be?
Well, let me just back up and say that I had to bring this conceptual site plan to the Suffolk County Farm Committee. Is that-
Farmland Committee.
Farmland Committee. And these properties, because they were acquired for agricultural farmland purposes already, development rights anyway, they're subject to Suffolk County Code, which mirrors New York State Ag and Market Law as it relates to what constitutes agriculture. And it's Chapter 8 of the Suffolk County Code, and there are limitations on what can be developed and what constitutes development on these sites. So I've been trying to learn this as I go along, but there's a threshold by which a 50-acre site, less than 50-acre site, 12.5% of the site can be developed, and over 50 acres, 10% of the site can be developed. This site happens to be 50 acres. I'm not sure which side of the fence at the end of the day we're going to be on, the 10% or the 12.5%. But suffice to say, we can develop as much as between 5 and 6 point something
Something
acres. I don't know which way that's going to be.
I think it's actually, we found a deed, and it was over 50 point something acres, so we're gonna have to go with the 10%.
That's fine, because it's easier math for these purposes, so let's say 5 acres, okay?
Corral doesn't count as
Right,
development?
doesn't. So what what I did was, and I should also, full disclosure, I mean, this is generated by me with an aerial photograph, a ruler, and a pencil. That's how I come up with this stuff. But the stable, the indoor arenas, the maintenance building, and the manager's office total do not approach that.
But
The
the parking has
parking-
to
The
be
parking.
included, yeah.
Yeah, the parking, I want to explain that because in my mind, a grass parking area does not constitute development. However, to give you an idea of how strict these the ag code is, they do. So that does enter into it. However, without getting into too much detail, you can have one special event a year. We could fill that with parking for one event a year and still be in compliance with those guidelines, those regulations. So unfortunately, this site plan does not represent that, but this 3 acre and 4.4 acre identified parking areas need to be reduced to 1.5 acres each. So you just visualize that. We acknowledge that the parking has to comply with that 10 acre threshold.
What about internal drive streets, internal?
Paved area, well, there's no paved, that's precluded. Pervious surfaces are permitted.
But
I need
do they
handicap
count-
parking.
Do they count towards the development, even if they're just dirt roadways?
Do you want to clarify that?
We do include paved areas or structures, so it depends how it's presented.
These aren't going to be paved parking.
No,
I think
no.
with the exception of handicap, I need to pave or have some
We-
sort of hard packed surface that's appropriate for compliance. But I should say that there are provisions by which I go back to this committee and ask for, I don't know if you call it relief, but a permit. I need a permit from them. And they would review,
all
when the concessionaire
details.
comes through the RFP process, we decide who we're going to award the contract to. I imagine there's going to be some deviation from this. There's one question as to whether or not the deviation is great enough that I think it warrants coming back to you guys. That's one question. The second is, regardless of the answer to that one, I will go back to the Farmland Committee for their blessing and approval of that final plan. To your point, though, I would argue that it's reasonable to expect, on a farm, there are roadways, dirt, what have you, gravel, as there will be here. I would argue it doesn't count towards that, but I don't expect it to be that close to the 10 acre for it to be an issue.
And the manure removal or disposal plan, the contract, whatever you're calling them, the vendee will deal
They'll
with
have to
that?
provide that. That'll be part and parcel of the response from in the bid proposal back in response to the RFP.
Oh, did you ever talk about number of horses?
I'm not sure if. I'm not sure I did. The research I did was really about what kind. First I looked at the indoor arenas and what size they typically are, and I went off of that. The stables. Did I talk about the number of stables that are?
No.
Number of stalls?
Yeah, number of
How
stalls.
many
I
are
got.
on board?
Well, there's a minimum requirement of, I believe, 10 horses as part of the ag and.
Right. You have to meet certain criteria.
Certain criteria have to be met according
Looks
to
like you could
Chapter
hold
8.
100.
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
Right.
Mary Ann?
Well, going back to Sally Lynch, my understanding of her operation is that people don't board. They bring their own horse trailers to events. So your parking, you may have a vendee who wants a whole lot more parking. Parking is one of her major concerns.
Well, I'm not sure. The boarding is.
It would not be for the events, it would be for something else, is what you're saying. Which is, and I'm saying that the events themselves, you'll have these huge trailers come with horses. They'll board on site in the parking area.
And they can avail themselves of the 7.5 acres for the event.
Okay.
But we can only have one of those a
They'll need
year.
it.
There's,
They'll
right,
need it.
there's a
Yes.
one per year allowance of a special event that would have to be brought before the Farmland Committee for approval. But basically, if you're just using the land, as is, there's no restriction.
So So you're saying they could only have one event a year, one car
Correct.
show a year?
Yeah,
Can I get a waiver to have any more events than the one?
no, sorry.
It
Oh,
seems to
okay.
me like we really ought to subdivide our decision here. One is whether or not the property is worth getting just on its own. And the other is this proposal. So I just raised
I
that
like that,
as
yeah, let's do that.
Loretta.
Gloria, I just wanted to make a few other comments on the application. There were just some minor corrections that we needed to make on the off-street parking information on page 3. The 1.5 acres doesn't change, but some of the numbers within that calculation were written incorrectly, so we need to update that information. I'm sorry for that. And on page 5, the wooded area is not going to change in acreage. That, again, was another error that we're going to correct, as well as,
Yeah, I saw that.
yeah, so I'm sorry about that.
Okay, that's okay.
That was, that will stay the same at 12.3 acres. That was incorrect. And so those corrections will be made, and we'll resubmit with those corrections in place.
So actually, you reminded me of another question I forgot to ask. So it appears like when you drew in with your pencil, the corral fencing, in some places you're going like straight through what appears to be buffers of trees. Will those not come down, or?
No, they will. Yeah, they will. The site is, it's a little deceiving. It's more fallow than this represents, really. You can see to the neighboring, to the east at the North Fork Preserve, it appears as if that's active as well. And it's not. It's been fallow for some time. So it is pretty brushy already. There's a lot of pioneer species that have come in, typical native grasses, and a variety of native weeds and shrubbier species that have come in. The boundary, I don't think it's particularly critical, but yeah, you see those hedgerows along the western boundary, and the corral goes into those. I did maintain there's this line of cedars that have come up in between, if you see the western side of the stable, proposed stable building, between that and the corrals. It may or may not, we didn't quantify that as wooded. The wooded portion is really the portion north of the stable,
Yeah.
and the dog leg, which isn't on this, that extends all the way to Sound Shore.
Sound Avenue.
What is the access to this?
Sound Avenue.
Down here on Sound
So,
So it's coming from the south. Yeah.
it's to the south, right?
Yes.
Okay, off the south.
Yeah. You can see, let's just flip
On the
back to that
first-
other one, the acquisition.
As I had mentioned, on the southern portion, there's a leg that goes down to Sound Avenue.
Right.
That would be the access.
Madam Chair. And just to address what Nick just spoke about, but about the fields being overgrown and not used. I know there's some local interest in farming part of that, while the county decides exactly how to go forward with this and when. Is there, there's value in that. One, of course, there'd be some rent involved. Two, it would keep the fields from becoming completely overgrown. Once you get a couple of years worth of small growth trees, locusts especially, in about 4 or 5 years, it would take a substantial amount of clearing and a lot more work to develop it into pasture. So is there any possibility of the county renting these fields to be farmed?
Write legislation.
Yeah, I don't think we do that as a regular thing.
And this is the first time we've ever done this kind of acquisition. So we've never been the underlying residual fee owner.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be something we can explore.
Because, I mean, the county rents a lot of different facilities. It wouldn't be any different from that.
Especially in a temporary arrangement
It would
that's
be a year to
giving
year.
us money
Absolutely.
until you have a vendor who's ready to build.
I would,
The underlying
Department had an objection.
agricultural rights on the property?
I'm
Nick?
sorry, Jim?
The underlying agricultural rights on this property were purchased. They remain in perpetuity.
Intact, yes.
And the reason you're proposing putting stables in a horse farm here is because that's in compliance with ag law. Well, so's farming. I mean, you
Oh,
know,
yeah, absolutely.
so in essence,
The only, oh, you mean back to the legislator's point?
yes.
Oh, okay, yes.
Yeah, I
There wouldn't
mean,
be any conflict with
The only
the
reason you're
use as far as the
proposing
farm
this
committee is
here is
concerned.
because it's in compliance with the underlying agricultural development rights.
That, well, yeah, but the bigger reason we're here in the first place is the county wouldn't be interested in pursuing the residual fee to this property if it weren't for the fact of its proximity to a future park being developed immediately adjacent.
No, I understand that,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying.
But yes, that is just as much in
Interim
compliance.
lease of the property
Right.
for growing crops is in compliance.
The only
with
tricky
underlying.
thing is that once it becomes a park, if it is in fact transferred to parks, if this arrangement were to be pursued, it could either remain in real estate until such time that North Fork Preserve Park moves forward and we move forward with the equestrian center, or it would have to be a license agreement or some sort of temporary license agreement because the park property once transferred to parks cannot be leased.
I would just make a comment that when we buy this, it's under the drinking water protection program for active recreation. We're not, I wouldn't want to delineate from the intent of what we're trying to do here. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend that we not transfer it to parks because of, any temporary thing. We can certainly set up some kind of arrangement in the interim, but I wouldn't preclude us from doing that because then we would be jeopardizing the intent of what we're trying to buy this and for what.
Nick, can you just explain a little more about this equestrian committee that felt that there really was a need for such a facility and the whole reason Parks is going through or wants to go through with this project?
Well, there were several failed attempts to revive the facility at South Haven particularly. It was a very popular facility. I would say to a lesser extent Sears Bellows, which had also failed. And so the county went about trying to figure out what it was about South Haven that was, that their business model didn't fit and what we could do to help to promote to get that back. Because of its central location and the proximity of the use of the park, and that, as I had said earlier, that in and of itself wasn't enough to make a go of it as a business evidently. And the equestrian task force, which I did not serve on, but I believe I was around for at the time, sought out to look and find.
Which Jack Eddington established, right? Equestrian task force.
Could be, yeah. What it was that we could do to help to promote and what the needs were, what the interests were of the equestrian community, which is significant, I have come to find out since, in the county, what they're interested in finding in terms of a facility. So the results of that really pointed towards a property that was larger overall, had more indoor space. We do have an indoor arena at West Hills. It's of limited space. We do not have an indoor facility at Montauk. Montauk is really the exception in that it's the hack rides that really carry the business there. However, its uniqueness, yeah, and people are willing to pay for that, basically, is the bottom line. So that is really doesn't. That's not consistent with what I've been telling you, because that's primarily a hack ride operation. But that's that's Montauk. It's just a unique experience. So, but that's essentially it. I can get you the report if you're interested in learning more about what their results were.
Well, I was interested in the, I'll say, urgency of the equestrian community that such a facility was really needed and would survive and be a profitable thing for the county to go ahead and purchase this and do this transaction just for the equestrian community. I'm trying to understand the real need for it.
Well, the county's piece of this is that bear in mind that we're talking about 10 to 15% of the acquisition cost is now remaining to actually own the property outright. So that's one thing. There isn't a significant additional investment by the county to actually acquire the property. That's number one. But number two is the county, the intent is to have the concessionaire that will be how it is sent out to
And burden
RFP. All that
all
capital
that,
investment
okay.
will be on that, yeah.
Okay, Mary Ann?
And if you should not be able to locate a satisfactory concessionaire,
Yes.
what would happen to the land?
We are obligated, I guess, to continue some sort of agricultural use. We have,
It would have to be an equestrian use.
yeah,
Ourselves.
It has to
We're
be an
set,
equestrian
yes.
use?
Once that's the intent of the program, is that, you have to set the use of the use of the property from the get-go. And that's why we go through this process. When I come to you before you for passive recreation, it stays passive
And
recreation.
we're not allowed to ask how much money, but
No,
in
we're
my
not.
own mind, I'm saying, so we're gonna put out X, and we may not find a vendor.
Well, that's what I was concerned about, how necessary the equestrian community felt that they needed another place. Yes?
Just to, if you look at the property, the parcel to the west is not protected. And is there any concern about putting an equestrian center next to a parcel that's unprotected and having the inevitable user conflict if that's ever developed for residential housing?
But does that have farmland rights on it, the parcel to the west already?
Not the one directly to the west, no, according to our
Wait.
map. The one,
The adjacent parcel.
the adjacent parcel to the west is
This
not.
one, Karen, right here.
But the one beyond
We
that one
own
is
the parcel in question.
mhm,
We own
the
the
development.
development rights right now.
Mhm.
And we're looking to buy the underlying.
Correct.
So why is this gonna be part of the farmland program at all when we own both pieces of it?
It has to abide by the Chapter 8 deed of development rights.
That was
which
only
goes
when we
with the
were
land in
preserving-
perpetuity.
That's only when we preserved the development rights on
We
it.
did
and-
initially, and that was the intent when we bought the development rights in the 90s or whenever it was.
Right, but now that we're buying the underlying fee and we hold both,
You can't
merge.
alienate the development rights from the property unless you go through a very onerous process of which we would not recommend.
But then, if we bought the development rights and you're supposed to set the type of development in the 90s, how can we now change it?
I'm sorry.
Because
said-
it's agricultural purposes and it
Purpose.
follows the agricultural purposes rules.
Right, but
It's for
not-
farmland
it's
production.
not equestrian.
Equestrian use is a type of farm production.
Agricultural.
Okay, but you just said it must be set as equestrian and,
Because the active recreation component of the monies that we're acquiring this with, one of the things can be parkland, ball fields for active recreation, equestrian centers. So it fit both programs. It fit the active recreation component of the new drinking water protection program, and it also fit the farmland program as to what would be allowed for agricultural production, which is an equestrian center, an equestrian use is allowed under the farmland program as well. So you were able to dovetail both uses on the property without compromising the PDR program or the the funding provided.
All right, so all your ducks are lined up in a row properly to make
I don't
sure that it
trust that
fits,
anybody
all right,
really-
with those two
Yeah,
constraints.
the ducks
Go ahead, Mary Ann.
As I understand it, so it dovetails and it fits both programs, but once you do this, it will be constrained to equestrian use only.
Right.
Okay.
And there is no guarantee that they'll find a vendor who will build it. If you build it, they will come. We
and
hope.
how much will they charge us when we
And
don't
if
do
they
it?
build it, there's no guarantee that if they don't make a go of it, that they won't just abandon it
Yes.
either.
So there is a little bit of risk in this.
Yes, there is, and, we do,
If an operation were to commence and fail, and the county, say, defaulted the concessionaire, the improvements become the property of the county. So the county could then turn around and go for an RFP now with a center that is now developed
To manage it.
by the, right, to come in as an operator. That's one potential.
Do we find ourselves if we're not,
Do we what, find ourselves?
Exactly.
not upgrading?
That's why this is a little tricky.
I have raised this issue with the commissioner, and he feels, for the reasons I've already explained to you, that being the residual fee and the results of the task force, confident that there would be interest enough for this to move forward. To the legislator's point, the idea that this is being acquired through the active rec piece is what further ties our hands and commits us to the equestrian use later on. So it is pretty convoluted.
I have a question. I mean, right now you're talking about you had the facility at South Haven, some of these other things were pretty centrally located in the island, okay? I mean, this is pretty far to the east. Is this, people gonna wanna bring their horses and everything else that far out in the South Hold in order to do that?
This is in Riverhead.
Riverhead.
It's west of, it's really just north of the 105 intersection. So it's not geographically central to Suffolk County, but I do believe the convenience of this site, that I would disagree. I think it is a pretty convenient site from that standpoint. And the issues, while it does seem like there are many regulations and restrictions on this property, they do not approach the restrictions that were limiting factors in the success of stables within the core preservation area of Pine Barrens.
Okay, Larry.
I think the legislator brought up a very interesting and important issue, and that is, what is the neighbor to the west going to do? Have you talked to the neighbor to the west?
Well, I guess I disagree in the sense that I don't see this being a significant potential for development, in that it's, at least to my knowledge, it's actively farmed.
I don't know who owns it or farms it.
The county owns the PDRs for the 3 parcels continuing to the west, and then again picks up additional parcels.
So we do have the PDR to the property to the west?
Not the subject
the
site that the
directly.
legislator brought up. If you look at the first attachment, or
First map.
No.
first
See,
map,
there-
past that, towards the back.
These 2 parcels right here, immediately adjacent to the red line on the east, on the west side, those 2 parcels are not in our program or in the town program.
Do you know who owns it?
I don't know offhand. We certainly
I
can
mean,
find out.
because you get that user conflict, and that could really affect the county's, plans there.
I don't see the potential conflict. I mean, I can see just as much of it being an amenity, live next to a horse stable and, look out over the corrals kind of thing as
Well,
an amenity.
Well,
Unless they
residential
sell
development
lettuce.
is, people have different views when they build their homes there. And they're sold
We're not
under
growing
different
spinach,
pretenses. So
What's that?
Growing spinach.
I mean,
it would be better in this case, I think, if you made that kind of investment, reserve the land adjacent to it, so you wouldn't have that. Because farming wouldn't have a conflict with horse
Oh, I
stables.
see.
But residential development could have a conflict.
Well, we certainly are going for, as an aside to that, as part of a grant report that we're working on for farmland in Suffolk County, we are going to be looking at those non-protected farms and making recommendations in that regard in another report. So something like that, yes, we would key in on that parcel, just looking at it right now, to make a recommendation to put that on our list to be acquired.
And I would imagine a big part of that would be the fact that the site that the legislator brings up is sandwiched between 2 pre-existing
Exactly.
PDRs. So
That's
it
right.
seems to-
And that would make
Look, it's already
a
farmland.
very solid case to making that recommendation.
Okay, members
Well,
of the
maybe we
board.
could use the
Do
money
you-
from the EPA.
Does anybody have any motions or what they would like?
This is really a sticky wicket.
Yeah. I am
Is
not
that a
that
motion?
comfortable with it.
I think it's a great idea, but
There's no guarantee it'll work. That's why I was asking you, is that a question task force? Yes, it is,
So
the CEQ
that's what we
question.
have to.
But I have reservations about the whole project. But as far as a secret review.
Type 1 action, you know, more than 10 acres, you know. Also, any type of negative declaration would have to have the proviso that any development of the site for stable purposes will have to come back in before the, you know, CEQ for environmental review.
Regardless of its compliance with the conceptual.
Yeah.
Okay. that's
Because
fine.
it's large, it's so big.
Okay, is there a second? Seconded by Laura. All in favor? Motion passed.
Thank
you,
you.
Loretta.
Thank you.
Nick.
We will, I believe, I just wanted to double check in our resolution that's going before the legislature if we, I believe we we made it a type 1 action, but if we,
On the type 1 action?
oh, it should be changed. And I think there's a subsequent copy of the resolution that I did that's not attached, I'm sorry, that indicated that it is a type 1 action. It should be, and I'm sorry about that. I will make that correction, and I believe I already have, so. I will provide copies of the updated EAF to you with the corrections that I mentioned as well.
Yes, please email it to Christine and let her email it out, and let's not print those. All right?
Perfect. Thank you.
Does that include a revised site plan for the parking?
Well, if you want to do that, you could let us
Let's check
have a
with Katie,
copy.
I'm pretty sure she has that.
We have just a comment
Just
to
that.
be revised, total proposed parking to be.
No, I'll make sure that there's a revised site plan also that goes with it.
Thank Nick.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Loretta, recommended type
Okay.
1, proposed acquisition of land by Suffolk County for active recreation purposes, known as the Board of Education Middle Country Central School District Number 11 property, Boyle Road, Town of Brookhaven.
Thank you. This proposed acquisition, again, is to acquire it under the Drinking Water Protection Plan for active recreation. And the uses will include before I start there, I'd just like to put a caveat on the map. There are two adjoining properties to this parcel that will be part of a active recreational athletic complex. To the west of the site, directly to the west, outlined in green, is a property the county acquired about 2 or 3 years ago called the Grace Presbyterian Church property for active. That was also acquired for active recreation, proposed for 2 ball fields on that property. And that has moved forward, and that was approved by the legislature, and we have acquired that. The other parcel attached to this and adjacent to this proposed acquisition is a town of Brookhaven parcel to the north. And on that portion of the property, there is a proposal for a multi-use ball field. Now,
Is that a sand mine that was there before or what?
yeah. No, I think that was a ball field. That was a ball
It
field.
looks like a ball field, yeah.
I played softball.
Yeah.
You know the place, okay.
So, now, the EAF before you outlines and discusses the actual proposed uses on the 15.8 acre area of the school district property. We are acquiring, again, the 15.8 acres of a 21.3 acre site. The area outlined in the white dotted line will be retained by the school district. That is a school facility. Of the 15.8 acres, the proposal is to provide the following uses. One multi-use sports field, 2 baseball fields, 2 basketball courts. It's actually 3 tennis courts. We will make that correction. 1 playground area, 2 shade shelters, 1 comfort station, 7 picnic pods, and 3 parking lots to be located on the subject property. And I will change, not included in this assessment, is the adjacent county-owned property to the west and the town-owned property to the north that I just outlined for you.
It is included what you just said.
It is what?
It was included what you just said, those two remnants.
It's not included in the discussion that we're having
Okay,
before
okay,
them today.
okay.
So in providing that information, you can see the various uses on the property. There will be one permanent structure, the comfort station, and the pods, shade shelters will just be concrete slab areas with overhangs. Larry?
You're gonna do a lot of clearing, it looks like, and I'd be interested in knowing how much use the existing ball field has before you build 3 or 4 more.
Someone from the...
I could answer
Kevin,
that.
say your
Just
name,
to
please.
introduce myself, I'm Kevin Laval. I'm aide to legislator Tom Muratori in the legislature. I'm actually just got elected as the councilman for this area too, so I have pretty unique knowledge of what's going on here. The Grace Presbyterian, the 2 fields to the west that you're looking at right now, years ago those were baseball fields, something that I grew up playing baseball on. As a matter of fact, the church that owned them, they had some financial issues, so they closed down the use of the fields. Right now, you can still see the imprint of those fields that are sitting there right now. The town is getting ready. It's basically a cleared area. You can see the imprint. The town's getting ready that this spring we're going to break ground and rebuild those fields. So that's going to be the new development there. As far as the Veterans Field to the north right now, it's inactive. It has lights on it. It's basically a facility that runs 7 days a week. Until 10 o'clock at night too. So that's what the 2 areas right now before the purchase that are sitting that Loretta just talked about that are currently in the town's hands.
So you see that there's a requirement for all these other fields?
Yes, absolutely. The area that we're representing, just to give you a little idea, the 4th legislative district, just to give you an idea, just historically, we've only purchased as a county 2 acres of land in that area, and that's the Grace Presbyterian Fields. This is an area that is in very dire need of adding playing fields and what have you. The agreement that we've worked out on this particular deal is that the county will purchase the land, the town will develop and maintain the land. So the town will incur the costs going forward for any of the development of the property.
Yeah, I got a question. When we purchased the Grace property,
Yes.
there were proposed fields on that.
Yes.
Nothing's been done.
It's,
That's what's
we
being
just,
moved forward.
we just went to closing, as a matter of fact, only a few months ago, that the town is now handed over. We're breaking ground on that property this spring. So literally, we're right in that process with the Parks Department right now, finishing the MOU, and then we're gonna break ground on that property to start building those fields out this spring as a town.
So this adjacent property, which is a school property,
Yes.
and a lot of these facilities probably should be the responsibility of school to purchase and build. Because years ago, we used to have a parks plan before we got an active recreation. So the county does not take over building local ball fields and everything else for the community. And yet, we're paying exorbitant school taxes, but yet they're gonna build the facilities, probably will be used by the school as well as so-called other residents, which, you know.
There will be, it is, when county acquires land in this capacity, where we buy the land, the local municipality does the improvements and the maintenance, it is always open to all county residents. That is the caveat we include in all MOUs with the municipality, so that isn't understood.
Well, no, I understand that, Loretta, but I mean, the point here is if the school were to build these facilities on that thing, it'd be open to everybody in the school district too.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's questionable how many people are gonna come out of the school district and go use these parcels.
Well, the
the
whole
town
community is
is
gonna
building.
use the parcels. I mean, people that live in the general area, there's a
whole
walking
Well,
trail.
I understand that, but why isn't the school district building these facilities on their property?
They allow us right now to use their properties and their ball fields right now for the community organizations in the area.
Well, I
This is an
understand that, but why
agreement
not
that we
build
worked
some
out
new
with
ones?
them. Because this is a positive area. As I said before, the area that we represent right now has very limited open space opportunities. I can tell you as a matter of fact, representing the area, there aren't many open space areas left. So working out unique deals like this is something that we have to do in order to provide the services that.
Well, I understand that, but the school could build these facilities.
The school doesn't have the money to do it.
Okay, but let's get back to our secret review of this item. I'm concerned that 13 acres of wooded shrubby area is going to be cleared. That's a lot of land to clear if you're purchasing it for the Drinking Water Act, am I correct, Loretta?
Well, I understand your point, but this is an active recreation component, and in so, as it is described, it can be used for ball fields, and that is inherent in developing properties for active recreation, that in fact may be what needs to be done to create that activity.
This is actually very well buffered, but I do agree with, I would hope that you'd be able to plant more trees on the interior.
There are very few trees, instead of relying on these artificial shade structures that really are ugly, and don't do anything for cooling the surrounding temperatures, to plant a lot more trees along the perimeter of the baseball fields.
Yeah, this is a conceptual plan. I mean, we really can't put everything on the plan of the trees that we're going to put on there. So that's really inherent in what we're trying to do as we develop this parcel. One of the things that we're planning to do with the parcel, it's going to be estimated between $5 and $10 million to develop this whole parcel through the town. So we'll probably do it in a phased approach, which will allow us to use the existing trees that are there to try to build around as we go from section to section. So we'll be able to keep a lot of the natural look towards the fields as we move along with the project. It's not something we're going to come in and just whitewash the whole property. We'll be able to develop this piece, leave the buffer, and then develop as we go along.
How long is the paved walking trail?
Do you have an estimate on that? There's not really an estimate on it. I mean, it's about a 22-acre parcel when combined with the other parcels and
It's
what
really
goes around.
nice.
It's going to be a rather large walking trail.
Yeah, and having more trees along that walking trail makes it all the nicer to make it really a valuable walking trail.
What we were kind of basing this on is, I don't know if you know the wedge parcel that's up in Mount Sinai, right at the end of County Road 83
No, I
and
don't know.
25A. It's really a park that we looked at and said, it's very, very positive. On Sundays, you can drive by there on the weekends. People are walking with their kids. There's a playground there for kids, not only for sports, but it gives an opportunity for everybody in the community to kind of come and have a place to go. So that's really why we're trying to model this on that.
Mary Ann?
I'm a little concerned with the tennis courts and basketball courts and the parking lot that is to the south of them. The parking lot, the proposed parking will be adjacent to the school. I assume this is an active school.
Yes.
I would take that rectangle and move it all the way to the north into the northmost mixed-use sports field so that the children can go outside of the school, and instead of going directly into parking lots on two sides, they could then, in that area, there could be something that the school could use. I don't see the school using the parking lot, the tennis, I mean, they may use the tennis courts and the basketball courts, but I would transpose those.
So flip the basketball, the courts with the parking?
Well, there is, if you look up to the north, there are 75 stalls that are going to remain existing parking, so that if you took that north rectangle, the multi-use sports field, and moved the tennis courts and basketball courts in there, all right? Then you could have an open area for school use. I mean, the way this is drawn,
I think they want to, just a point of comment there. My understanding is the school district is going to be putting a fence around their part of the property. They don't want direct access.
they don't want
No.
access?
Where do they have
Not
recess?
direct
Yeah, I don't
access.
see
Well, yeah, where do they have
playground.
recess? What
There's
level
still,
school is this?
Yeah, what kind of, I don't get it.
There's still, by the way, Ed Morris is here from our Parks Department in the town of Brookhaven.
Okay.
Well, the school does have an area that they do recess and open space right directly behind the school. What I think they want to do is, like Loretta said, they want to fence their property off, but have a walkthrough to our piece. Keep in mind, this is only conceptual on basis only.
Right, I understand
There's
it's
still a lot of,
conceptual.
there's still a lot of issues that are going to be after worked out. Like Kevin did say, we did base this on a similar park we did in conjunction with the county on purchase of, I believe it was a Drinking Water Act. It was probably one of the most successful parks the town has ever built.
All right,
It's
Jim?
located
I
in Mount
understand, it's just
Sinai.
my concept is that you might want to consider transposing
Well,
those
we'll
areas.
leave up the design to the engineers. I mean, like I said, it's conceptual
Okay.
only, and we're open to suggestions.
Okay, Jim?
Yeah, I have a question. In the past, when the towns have said they're gonna do certain things, has the town of Brookhaven passed a resolution stating that if the county purchases this property, they will definitely build these facilities?
Yes.
Yes, we have to do
Yes.
that for the initial
Well,
resolution. to be
has
passed.
it's been
Yes,
done?
Already been done.
Yes, they do have that in place.
Larry?
And I just want to make a note, it is a conceptual plan, and if things are changed, they would have to come back to this body for approval. So that you understand that that may happen.
Yes.
Okay.
But Larry?
I'm just puzzled about this whole thing. And you get to the question of environment. One of the things that we're supposed to do is look at the big picture with regard to the environment. And the monies that are proposed to be spent here could potentially be better spent elsewhere to protect the environment. I don't understand why we're buying property from an organization that is already public. This is the kind of thing where you transfer property for $1, not purchase it for some sort of a fee. It just seems insane to me what this proposal is. Yeah.
But this is, we've already done this as a county. We've already bought school property. That precedent has already been set. It's already been.
That doesn't mean
approved.
it's right.
Doesn't mean, but you have to take each parcel, a parcel at a time. Our area is overdeveloped as is right now.
Okay, I understand that, but what's in front of the board right now is to make a decision on the secret process on this type 1 action. That's what we're tasked with today. I agree with Larry. I don't think we should be buying property from another public entity, a school district that's also supported by the taxpayer. I think that's insane. But what's in front of us is the secret review of this type 1 action. So do we have a motion?
Well, I have a question too.
Yes.
I mean, this is a type 1 action, clearly, more likely to require an environmental review. I mean, in essence, you could flag this for an environmental impacts statement, and the EISs can take into account not only the impacts on the environment, but also associated economic impacts that would be associated with acquiring school district property, which is already under the public domain, for the purchase of these things. Maybe the EIS should also look into the school donating the property to Suffolk County and the town of Brookhaven so they can then build these facilities.
We've already explored that opportunity. They're not willing to do that.
Did we do that the last time we bought school district property? Did we give it did we require a full EIS?
When did we do this?
Where did we do
When did we
this?
do it? When-
Riverhead.
in
Oh, that
Riverhead?
was for farmland PDR? That was a different use.
Yes, it definitely was, yeah.
It was
Right.
a vacant land that was actually previously farmed, not set aside as a separate parcel from the school facilities. It was a separate lot, not associated with an existing
owned it?
school facility.
School owned it, we bought the PDR,
Yes,
we purchased the development rights
correct.
for a school's farm.
Well,
Correct.
for a school's vacant property.
Vacant land,
That
they
could be under
banked
the farm
land
program.
for possible future use. It was never used as a school property. It had been farmed previously, and was going to be continued to be farmed. The underlying fee, I believe, went to another individual who's a farmer.
So, members of the board,
What's your proposal?
I mean, I think this needs further review.
yeah, I'm not, you know,
And that's the purpose of an environmental impact statement, is to undergo the full ramifications and build out the proposal and what the impacts are. We got no idea how many people are going to be coming in here, what the traffic impacts on the local community, and you can't subdivide these things under secret. Say, well, we'll buy the property now, and in the future we'll determine what the
Part two
environmental
done
impacts are
on the
going to be,
EAF?
especially with a type 1 action.
Yeah,
Part 2 is done?
Yeah.
Move on, Part 3.
Part 3 just is signed off.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
from the perspective of the Department of Economic Development and Planning, I would suggest that perhaps you look at doing an expanded Part 3 rather than going into a full-blown recommendation to go into a full-blown environmental impact statement. I think the information that you're looking at could be provided through an expanded Part 3 of the EAF as well. If I'm not mistaken, I believe that the legislature does do a fiscal impact analysis on the bill as it goes through. And perhaps a recommendation from CEQ with regard to that analysis that Member Bagg has brought up could help facilitate moving the project along without putting it into a full-blown secret process.
I mean, we could do that to start with. I mean,
yeah, I like that suggestion because I hated to see this project actually have the county spend the money on a full EIS. I don't think.
Well, that would be a question that we'd have to explore internally, also with the town of Brookhaven, because those costs, I don't know where they would be incurred.
So
So-
I believe I'm making a suggestion
I
from
think it's
staff
important,
that the CQ make a recommendation to the legislature that this is a type 1 action, that a more detailed environmental review, particularly with regard to the issues that Member
And
Bagg has
Part
brought up,
3, fill out fully
and that an expanded Part 3 would be,
and come back again. Alright.
The CEQ, can table this project subject to the preparation of Part 3,
You could just
because
do
the
that.
EAF is incomplete.
whatever moves
That might be simple.
the project
And
along.
I'd like to have input from the local community.
We already have letters of recommendation from every civic group, every
All right,
sports
well,
group,
that-
all
Well,
in the
that can
area.
be
It's already in
provided.
your package.
That should be,
It's
Next
all in
time.
the package.
Okay, then, we are going to table this.
it's not in this one.
No, we don't have that. And,
It wasn't part of this package, we have that
yes, but
information.
provide all that community support when you come back in front of the board again, and a full, filled out Part 3 of the environmental assessment form to address our concerns for this
Well,
issue.
what are concerns, let's outline those concerns.
All right, start.
Well, number one, I'd like to see what is the potential impact of traffic, on the proposed build-out of this facility.
The
in the local-
socioeconomic impacts besides just the
Yeah,
environmental?
they have the right to request that too.
Does this address traffic at all? What's here?
We
Not really.
indicated how many parking spaces and
It
how
doesn't
many
address traffic.
trips per day that would generate, and we always use maximum trips based on number of parking spaces provided. We did not do a formal traffic study at this point. We can discuss what information you're looking for and try to address your issues.
Well, I'd like the traffic elaborated on in the letter. In other words, based on what your figures were for the things, and how many trips generated, and where these cars are gonna come from, and what's the potential impact on...
On Hawkins Road and Boyle Road, there don't seem to be any small side streets, they're major roads.
No, there are two main roads in the area with, significant traffic. We can, evaluate that on a more formal basis and see what, we can provide for you.
Okay.
We'll work with the town.
Would this be a lighted project?
Yes, that was indicated to us that it would be lighted.
Okay, so then all of these neighborhoods to the north and to the west, they have to be discussed with, as far as having a lighted facility at night and their impact? All right. Yes,
Just as far as traffic concerns, this is parks. It's off hours. It's after business hours when people are going to be traveling these roads. It's two major roadways, Boyle and Hawkins. We've been to the community. We've presented this not only to both civic communities that are in the area, before the PTA council, before the school district, before every sports organization. I've gone out and talked to everyone. They're very aware about the plan. They're aware of what's going on. The lighting that we're talking about in this project isn't around the outside. It's within the inner part of the fields that was discussed. So the community around the outside won't be affected by it. And additionally, right now, the Veterans Field up to the north is already lit up. It already has lights there.
okay,
Well,
but
I
that
understand but
information.
that's the purpose of the review.
Yes.
Is to, I mean, you say you this, everybody's, but
We don't have
this
proof of
board
that.
doesn't have that
I have
information.
letters of recommendation
Well,
from all the civic
bring them
communities.
back.
Then they should be put
It
in
should
the
be
part three.
in,
Let
Right,
us have
we'll
it.
put that in a part 3 then. We'll-
isn't that written on there that the community has supported, they express
Yeah.
support right on the application?
We,
Right on the application.
I-
We've already handed it in.
And I think we have a night skies,
Yes.
bright skies
It's already
limitation in
compliant.
Suffolk
Veterans Field's
County.
already compliant.
All right, well, that should be placed in the
Yes, we should
environmental review.
have all of that, so we can review all that and not have these
To
questions.
mitigate impacts.
that's fine.
Especially since it's a type 1.
We will include all the information that
Okay.
you're asking for.
As well as the, potential financial impact. I'd
We've
like to
never
mention
gone
on
this
that.
far as, with regard to, this type of acquisition, so we're more than happy to, offer our, information to get this.
It's more
to you.
unusual for an acquisition though, Loretta, to be type 1. And just-
Well, all the active recreation proposals come to you generally as a type 1 because we do fill out the long form EAF. We do answer the questions as we best can at this point, and we certainly can take it this next step forward with regard to.
What did we do with the fields in Islip that had, did we require a third part 3?
No, we did not, but there
How
was,
is
the
this
town of Islip did put forward a traffic study for us of that proposed acquisition because there were concerns from the community at the time, and so we knew that moving forward that was going to be an issue, and we did have the town prepare that information for us. So that was part of the EAF that you saw initially. So we had some background and some input that we knew that was a problem. We have not gotten that kind of impact from the community in any kind of negative way from any correspondence that we've gotten or the town. So we did not feel it was an issue that we needed to address necessarily. But if you feel that this is something that you need to move forward, we can do that analysis, and we can let you know what that would entail, and we can get back to you.
Okay, Loretta, yes, because we would like to have more information for this, okay? Will there be an impact on the acquisition if we have a delay of at least a month already?
Well, that's the issue here. This is, this is something that is timely, and, the town has been working with the county in the last year to solidify this project, so there is that concern. And
Well, they wouldn't be starting this construction in the winter anyway, probably, would they? So 1 month right now at this time of the year shouldn't be that awful as far as delaying
When do
it.
we meet in January?
That's up to you.
February.
February, generally, because,
Words don't disappear.
January
So let's
15th,
just
right?
table it.
January 15th,
yes.
I have just one last
January
question
15th,
before you make a motion. I'm just curious about this economic impact statement that you want. You know, this is new to me that we do this, but what specifically do you want with it? I'm just so I know when we come back, I can
I think
talk to the
that,
departments and
you
figure
know,
out what you're looking for.
Mr. Swanson has stated, you know, we're buying public property. In other words, property is within the public system from the school system.
Okay.
And we're giving the school system money. Now, rather than have them donate the property. Now, could the county's money be used better to protect the environment elsewhere? That's the whole idea. Why are we spending...
It's active recreation though.
Look, yeah, but that's one of the responsibilities under a school district. You're supposed to provide all this thing for your local people.
I find it, I don't know what you're gonna get.
Well, it should be
Who's gonna
put
write up
It
something
should be
that's
put in
economic?
writing, yes, as to
I mean,
whether or not, why are we providing
Isn't
public
that the
property from the school
legislature's
district?
decision to
understand
make,
how that's-
isn't that the
I don't know
legislature's
if we
decision
can
to make,
answer
we
Could
that.
make
money
the
be
policy in
spent
the
better
legislature?
elsewhere?
Yeah, but that's a
don't-
legislative decision. There's
Right.
no economic impact statement that you're gonna get, that people are gonna write up, because your opinion may be one thing, somebody else's opinion may be another. So I don't understand what economic statement we're gonna give you. It's the legislature's decision that this is a valuable piece. They voted already, saying that we wanted to acquire this. They made the policy decision when they made the initial decision.
The legislature
And we
voted to
debated
acquire
it
this on the
thoroughly.
list?
They voted for, to move forward on planning steps.
To move forward on planning.
And then we have another
Now,
vote after this.
right,
that
Well,
we
you know,
vote
I
on.
understand that,
And that's
but
where the
planning
debate will
steps
take.
is not approval.
We debated it thoroughly about the exact, if it's good to buy from a school district, not. The record
yeah.
will clearly indicate that it was debated
Well,
thoroughly.
then
in
put
the
that in,
legislature.
just put that in part 3, that the legislature determined the following things. And here's
I mean, by the vote of the
debate.
planning steps, they said move ahead with it, and
Well,
that's what we
there's
moved
minutes of
ahead
that meeting, right?
There's absolutely minutes of that
Was it,
meeting.
was it planning steps or was it a?
Planning
wasn't
steps.
It was under the old program.
Old program
That was, we started a couple years
for
ago with
active
this.
recreation.
So I
under
just
drinking
want
water.
to clarify what you're saying by economic impact
Yeah,
statement,
and
because I don't.
I'm not sure how
that's-
far we can take
You
that.
can't-
Well, I
can't go
agree.
anywhere
I think
with
the
that.
traffic, I mean, the traffic is something that
Oh, I agree, I have no problem with
is
your other
important that
arguments
this
that you're
body
making, but I just want to
asks us
clarify.
about, but I don't
Hmm?
think the other.
That's what I mean, but where's the review, what's ours?
If we don't purchase this property, if we,
There's a
let's
question
put
as to
it,
what-
if we
what the
purchase
wood
the
is
property,
included.
we don't pay for the improvements, but it's still our property, and we are responsible for it, correct?
Now, the town takes full responsibility for the property, for the security, maintenance, and everything involved.
No, she's saying if we don't build, like if we purchase it and we don't build, so where are you going with
No,
this?
No, I want to know who, if we proceed, if the county proceeds, are we responsible for anything?
no.
We just pay money, and we're not responsible for anything ever, down the road 50 years. This is totally someone else's responsibility, no matter what happens.
Yeah.
All we're gonna do is give the school district money.
And the town's gonna develop it.
It's a
and maintain
partnership
it.
between the town and the
Right.
county to
We have
make
an
these
MOU
resources
that would be
available to the
approved by
community.
Parks Department with the town to in fact improve and maintain this in perpetuity. That's the agreement that would be made
So it's not gonna be
between,
like other county parkland.
no. It's a different type of arrangement,
Got it.
and that's the requirement.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, that's the requirement of the program.
And that's not unique, that,
No.
Yeah.
that part of it.
Now, we have other agreements with
Okay.
other towns for active recreation sites that we've acquired.
This is what we should do.
I'd like to see also the number 11, the predominant vegetation types on the site, expanded upon, Loretta.
Okay.
What was that?
And also,
The vegetation types on the
we wring our hands about
wooded
endangered
area.
species living in the woods and so forth, and all these other things.
What woods and trees exist.
And any
Right.
potential endangered species, I'd like to see the DEC lists for the area.
Well, we
That's already been done.
we did do that analysis, and the natural heritage information did not indicate any rare and endangered species at this, but we can go out and do some local evaluation of the property in that regard.
I'd like to make a motion to table pending the preparation of part 3 to elaborate on the things that were discussed.
So,
Traffic, expand on the vegetation and, on
traffic
site.
and vegetation.
And the community's reaction to
And
it.
community's reaction, I
So
mean,
just
this
provide
all
the letter.
exists, you
I
just
already
plug
have
it in there.
And community support.
That will
For,
enable us to feel more comfortable to be able to do a
And
full secret
I'd like to
evaluation.
see, part of the legislative minutes when they discussed acquisition of school property and what they determined, that's all.
legislative,
Minutes.
notes, yeah,
Yeah, notes.
minutes. Okay.
Are any of the parking lots gonna be permeable and all the, water,
My understanding is they're paved.
that's all paved?
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Seconded by Larry. All in favor? Motion passed.
To table.
To table.
On the motion, can you clarify for us,
With the legislature.
the site plan that you have consists of 3 parcels, a town-owned parcel outright, the proposed acquisition, and now what is now a county-owned parcel. In the EAF, I'm sorry, Loretta, you had indicated that the EAF does not include those improvements?
Does not include the properties owned by the county to the east, to the west.
And the town
And the
parcel?
town-owned property to
Right,
the
it only
north.
includes
Do you want the whole project included in the EAF for the purposes of the,
No, I want the property, the 15 acres we're buying.
just the subject parcel? Okay.
And we can make that clearer on the map, the delineation of
Yeah.
those boundaries, how that would be helpful too.
And if we could get a copy of the town resolution, because that's all in existence, we'll just throw that in there.
Yep. So we have traffic issues, vegetation review, community comment, legislative minutes, and town resolution,
Lighting?
lighting. Any other issues that
Do
you
you
wish
guys have any
us?
additional questions
think
in
that's
terms
it,
of the
Loretta.
direction? What-
Fiscal analysis?
Well, if those are the questions that you asked, we'll have answers for you.
Thank you.
I
I think the fiscal, they were gonna cover with the legislative minutes.
Thank you, Loretta.
Because the
Now,
legislative.
I have a
already
question
approved.
here. Also, one other thing. Because this is a type 1 action, has lead agency been set?
I believe we did.
We did send out the
The letter.
notification to the involved agencies.
So the county designated themselves as lead agency?
Yes,
Yeah.
which we do on active recreation sites where we acquire
I
it.
think you should put that in the document as well.
Okay. Anything else?
I think that's it, Loretta. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, recommendations for LAD's report. Recommendations for legislative resolutions laid on the table November 6, 2013. John, is there anything in here that's,
Yeah, if I could just say for the 3, all of our recommendations are on the left-hand side. There's nothing that really jumped out as an issue with SECR. There was a number of resolutions that the CEQ had reviewed the project and now it's in the, appropriation of money phase or something like that.
I see many of them say complete secret.
Right.
Okay.
Some with the town or village as lead agency, but nothing, in particular that sort of secret issue.
Does anyone have any concerns about these, or is there a motion?
We're doing them as a,
Can we
one
do
at a
them?
time, or what?
Can we do them as all 3?
Unless you have any
Unless we
particular...
have a particular interest about a particular one.
So the motion will go for all.
We'll make a recommendation
Second.
to accept.
Made by Larry, seconded by Mary Ann. Okay. All in favor of recommending to accept all 3 LAD's reports?
Steve.
Motion passed. Okay. Other business?
In, Legislator Hahn and I were just whispering. Would you be willing to share the philosophy of what the legislature was thinking about with this? Because it does make some sense, you know, why the county is buying public land.
So the school district is looking to sell the land, first and foremost, so they could sell it to be developed, is one piece. But also, we have a need in that area for active recreational facilities. There's not a whole lot of property, if any at all, of open space for active recreation in the 4th Legislative District. That's significant. So we made the decision to put it as part of our holdings and to partner with the town to make that happen, to provide for this community this type of facilities that are much needed for that community. So
it could go to a private developer.
I believe it could. I mean,
I'm
it's
sure
for
the
sale.
school could sell to anybody they want, but how come it
I
doesn't?
think the difference from me, with all due respect, is if the school district put it up for sale to Kmart or a housing developer, there'd be a lot of community opposition.
Right.
There's no community opposition to the
No.
county taking taxpayer money and buying it.
Right.
Right.
Because the county wants to get into a partnership with the town for ball fields, so the
Right.
community wants this.
That's right.
And they're the ones who
But when you
pay.
say, I wonder how viable selling it to a private party would be, given what I anticipate is a lot of community opposition. I don't know that the school district would be able to do that.
But
And
you,
so-
I see your
It
point.
would be an
What?
I
as-
see your point.
There's
Could I
some
just-
as of right.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna
Um,
point out,
but-
it's zoned for a zoning district, so that they could sell it and it could be developed as of right under the zoning that exists currently.
The only way
And
community
the current-
opposition
What's the current zoning?
relates is if there's a change of
I
a
think-
zone.
yeah.
There is an as of right use, and it's
What
not
does that
part.
mean?
What does that mean?
More than
What
likely,
does that
more than
mean?
likely
What's
it's
that
zoned
about?
residential, and minimum lot size might be 1 acre in that area, for example. So the as-of-right use of that landholder could be to file a subdivision map and process the development of that site for single-family homes. That's my guess, that's one scenario.
So, and then you can't, when someone has a right to do something,
Yes.
you know, the town can't really stop them. They can make them comply with whatever laws there are when they're going to do it, but you can't impede an as of right use. So,
No, but the community can object. They're not going to object to
Yes.
this.
But
right,
they
and that's
can't,
all the reason.
they could object, but they can't really stop an as of
I
right.
understand that they can
I think
stop
that's a
it.
good
I
point, though,
understand.
that, you know, when we question why are they doing this, I mean, I think that should be brought out. That basically the property is zoned for whatever it is. The school district has the right to sell, and this property could be developed for maybe 13 houses, or I have no idea what the zoning is, could be developed, you know, for attached units of 400 homes, I have no idea what it
Do
is.
you know what the
But
zoning is,
that
Loretta?
description,
Do you know what the zoning is on that property?
Yeah.
that description of what Jim just said, to be put in the front little synopsis of this project would help
Yeah, I
tremendously.
don't
Set the
remember.
stage.
I don't
So
remember
we
what the as of right
understand
is, but
why
there's
the
always an
county's
as of
doing
right
this.
on
Right.
property.
Right.
Because
That'll go in the
Well,
beginning of the part
without
three.
that description, I feel also,
There's no
why would
wetlands
buy
here,
public
so it's not
property?
like.
No,
We can-
no.
We Kara, why isn't the town of Brookhaven taking the lead in creating town parks? Why is it?
No, they are, and that's why there's this partnership. There's clearly, you know, limited ability of the town to both buy the land and develop it. He just said it was gonna cost 5 to 10 million just to develop the plan they have. So this is a major commitment to increase the active recreational resources for
And
this.
sharing the cost between the
Community
county and
and
the town.
sharing
Okay,
between-
but see, all of that information would have been very helpful to
Right,
have
and
in the synopsis of this
Yeah, and
project.
I think it also very important to point out that even though we're using some land that we already own, and we're buying school property, at no point will we be responsible That's important.
Yes.
I think another thing is that while he says he has letters from the PTA and so forth, I'm not convinced that the local neighbors would really want to have lighting and so forth until 10 o'clock at night, even though there's a buffer. You know, there's a lot of...
Well, that's something I think that this was conceptual. I don't think the concept was completely thought through.
Yeah.
And I think lighting is one of the things that may not have been completed conceptually.
Well,
Putting that kind of parking next to a school doesn't make any sense. You know, I can see improving that particular plan, but
when you come in with a conceptual plan, you get a conceptual
Conceptual
approval.
answer.
yeah. Look, I don't like the idea either, but I don't see on environmental grounds how we can object.
Okay, but I want to say, going through this torturous process for this particular item, I think it's a good lessons learned for Suffolk County Planning and Environment to realize, to look at a little deeper issues when they create the synopsis of the project. And to bring out all these reasons of why the county felt it was worth it to put this in the Drinking
I
Water
have to
Protection
say
Act.
that, you know, we can put more detailed information on the whole process. But it really is a legislative decision whether they will move forward on this and why they move forward. I can't make the reasoning for the legislature.
Yes, and I
All I can
understand
do
that.
is explain
Should
the
be
process.
responsible for the reason.
I just want to make it clear that I
Yes.
can't speak
I
on their
understand that.
behalf.
But we are an advisory panel to the legislature.
Yes.
So it's important for us to have all of the information possible, to feel that
I
it's
feel-
thorough, so we can
right.
do our advising.
And I understand that, but I can only, you know, I'm trying to pull this information from the town. It is a concept plan, and we always indicate that if there are changes, or if you want to see changes, then you bring that to us. We relay that to the town and ask them to make whatever alterations may be appropriate.
But we've
I
created
guess it was more
a
detailed.
little bit of tension now between the legislature and
The
also the town council that could have been maybe totally avoided with a little more thoughtful presentation of what the background was and what the thinking was, that kind
I
of...
guess I've been doing this so long, and maybe it's a whole new group of people, but I do explain these programs, and we have had a number of parcels coming before you for active recreation, not, you know, maybe one or two a year, and we have always had, you know, understanding of the process, and you've asked questions, I've answered them, and I don't, you know, I will do what you are asking me to do, but I don't feel that I was necessarily that lacking in
I'm not criticizing you, I just
presentation.
think this was sort of a unique
Situation.
situation.
It did seem
Because the
very
school
In
unique.
the past, we had recreational facilities on already cleared areas. It
Right.
wasn't 13 acres, it was privately owned land. I mean, in the
Oh,
past,
I agree,
the
I
Ned
agree,
Decker
but,
stated
you know, I'm just, you know, I'm
that it could
kind
be
of just
developed for
stating the
residential
facts.
purposes and...
Yeah,
I can't come to you with, you know, an opinion of, and I don't necessarily disagree with you, but all I'm doing is bringing the process forward, not making the legislative decisions and questions that will come before the legislature on this.
Well, we understand that, but the point here too is if we have an in-depth EAF and Part 3, the legislature can use that to substantiate everything they do, if it's explained. Not looking all over the place where the town said this, and these guys said this, and these people
Right.
said that.
Just
And
wait
I
a
just
second
have-
though, in planning's defense, they have been working very hard to try and get this information out of the town. It becomes a little complicated when there's 3 different parties involved, parks, county parks, planning, parks at the town, and planning as well. and Loretta's done a terrific job in trying to get that information and gather that information. The previous acquisition, the Grace Presbyterian parcel, was on for 6 or 8 years before it finally went forward. The partner group that we had with that parcel fell through. The town only recently picked that up when somebody asked the question as far as what happened to that property all along. So there's a lot of history here, and it's been very hard to get all this information into one place. The revised site plan I have, which I brought with me today, I think is dated Monday. So this is an evolving process. The questions are absolutely, that's certainly within your purview to
There's
ask.
frustration on the part of the county legislator's office, but is there negative results from a slight delay like this? I can't imagine that.
No,
I
I
th-
don't think
I-
there's nothing significant.
No.
Yeah, I just understand that this is their,
Maybe.
priority,
Yes, I
and
get it.
this is what they want to move forward. We have been, going back and forth and trying to move this forward on many levels, and there's communication that has to be made and finalized. This is a lot of information that we present to you initially. Doing this does take us quite a while to actually put these long form EAFs together. It's not a simple, situation.
Yes, absolutely. To further demonstrate this point, they were not intending to come to the meeting.
Even today.
So I'm trying to impress upon them that they need to be invested in the process. And a part of the process, because I kind of got the feeling there would be questions from the council. And it's not up to Loretta and I to decide and horse trade with you guys about what can or cannot happen. The lighting, the parking, the traffic.
But
So the partner needs to be here and be a part of the process.
But in the past, in Islip, we had Islip prepare the form.
No, we did the form.
Well, I know that we
In
requested that.
conjunction with the town.
Well,
And the town,
yes.
but there were issues that had surfaced before we moved forward on it, that we were getting letters from neighbors indicating their issues with the traffic, etc. So we were forewarned in regard to that, and we concentrated on and requested from the town that they put together a traffic study for that particular acquisition, and they did, and they were willing to do that. So I didn't bring it to you without that, but we had some forewarned issues going on. In this case, we have not gotten any correspondence from any of the neighbors or local communities in opposition of this.
Do they provide the support letters to you?
Yeah, we do have support letters. There may be more than I asked Kevin if, I will pull my files out and get all my letters in line, and if there are other letters that they have that I don't have, I can, pull that forward too.
But possibly in the future, maybe when we go in partnership, that planning should request the town will assist in filling out all the environmentals and the EAFs in order to make the project move forward. Because we did that with Southampton too. I think that one parcel in Southampton, they also participated in the EAF.
I can't remember that one. But I do get them involved in doing the
There's something
process.
very, very strange about this proposal that I don't understand. And that is a school district that's giving up all of its land and fencing itself off. Now, every school in our community has fields.
This one doesn't. I
Lots
understand.
of
You gotta
fields.
remember, it's
They
a
have
year anniversary of
playgrounds.
Sandy Hook.
What?
You gotta remember, it's a year anniversary of Sandy Hook. I mean, we're in a
That's-
new time.
Yeah.
This is an elementary school. I'm just saying, you should see the PTA. My daughter is a first grader at an elementary school. The PTAs are up in arms right now about access on fields for snipers and, people are in a, it's a different mindset right now. It's not a good one, I'm with you. But,
Okay, no,
But
All
school
right.
safety
if
is
that's
the number
true,
one priority
if
right
that's
now.
true, and I don't have a kid in school, okay? And if that's true, that could pass. I mean, that may be how everyone
Yes,
feels
yeah, there's no
today,
question.
but that could pass.
Right.
And because that could pass, I would ask these people that they take the basketball courts and the tennis courts and move them to the north and leave that open so that if the school changes its mind and would like some playground or some area or some access, that it could be achieved. They can fence it off now. But the way this is being built, they're just putting parking lots right up next to the school.
Yeah, and I would imagine that parking lot, well, there's a buffer, there's a whole buffer.
There's a buffer of wood.
But they really are walling themselves off,
Right.
and the
You don't want
Sandy Hook
kids
is
to
a reality,
cross
but it's
through.
also a reality that our children don't get enough exercise and don't have enough recreation, and you see it in the papers
This is a
all the
fabulous,
time.
the walking trail that they're creating is a
Right.
fabulous resource.
We're not gonna be using it.
So I would just like to keep that open for the school, and but thank you for, I had no idea why they were walling themselves
Well, the
off.
school isn't precluded from using these
No,
facilities. so
right.
They're gonna
And there's
have
going to
access
be like a
I
gate to
Well, she
provide
just thinks that
access.
you don't want the kids going through the gate into the
No.
parking lot, having to
Right.
cross
Yes.
through
Right.
cars.
Yeah, no, that I follow you, but Mary Ann, if they do take that into consideration, these facilities would be fantastic. for a
Of course
neighboring
they would,
school
but
to
right
run.
now, what they're saying
Yeah, right,
is.
the parking lot.
And I-
No, they don't.
I don't-
And I think, they're not gonna use the
But
tennis court.
Loretta, I just want to end with, because this is going on too long, this conversation.
Okay.
If a lot of this description of why the county chose this property and how it fits the environmental reasons of why they will purchase it, because of those as development rights and all of that, that would have helped us a lot to just see that all written out in that synopsis of what the project was all about. Because first off, my reaction was, why are we buying public land? Why are we clearing
This-
13
see,
acres?
I agree, and I understand your position, but I'm not taking, I'm a neutral
Yes.
person. I'm not going to, I'm going to just bring you what is proposed. This is a proposal that moved forward from a legislator, so it's not the county planning department's initiative. So I am working with the initiator and the town of Brookhaven to bring this information to you. I'm a conduit
Yes,
for
I
you.
get that.
They meet the criteria of the program, that I can tell you whether they do or they don't.
Mhm.
And I can tell you, it is owned by the school district. Why and how,
Got it.
I
Okay.
cannot answer any more than that.
Okay, so that's why we tabled it, to get more information, because we weren't totally comfortable with making our decision.
Right,
Madam
and I
Chair.
understand your points, the lighting, the this, the that. Those are all valid comments, and I'm going to go back and work with the town and parks to come up with, a revised and expanded explanation of these points. But as far as why the county is going to buy a school district property is beyond what I can express to you.
But-
And I think Kara would Kara understands that I cannot answer that question.
But hearing you describe the as development rights and how you were talking about, that was helpful for me to understand. So,
Helpful
all
for
right,
everybody.
As development rights, what are you talking?
No, the other
as a
property.
pres-
as of right, I'm sorry. So if the school
So
district
again-
sold it to a private developer,
Private
but it
developer
was
This is how I'm
Development, so
remembering
many
it now.
houses.
I can't remember when. When did this pass planning steps?
Oh,
I feel
about
like
a
it
year
was-
ago or
I feel
more?
like it was 5 years ago.
But what I'm trying to say
You
is,
know,
so if we
I'm
do
hoping I'm remembering right.
proceed with making this a
What
farm,
the
Yeah,
zone,
I have a
current
question.
zoning
it
is.
does
Not a question, but a
fall in with
statement.
keeping it developed.
If it
Yes.
took the
I think if
town
I
of
could-
Brookhaven 6 years to develop the Grace property, this can't be an
You're saying they
immediate,
only just closed on it.
has to be
Yes.
done
No, that's not-
yesterday.
They
That's not
only
accurate.
just closed on it. That's not accurate. They just
11.
closed on it.
2011.
The acquisition
Andy, go ahead.
language.
Andy.
I was just going to say,
that's different.
CQ staff does
That's very
review these things, and we could be more diligent when we see something that might be a little bit more controversial. We'll scan the minutes of the
Yeah, with the Boys and
legislature
Girls
and
Club.
attach
Yes,
that
that
along
would
with a
be
copy of the
helpful, because
resolution. I
that'd be
think that would
great.
be helpful to the
Again,
to
I
the
felt there
board.
wasn't enough information. I
Right.
felt that, why are we doing this? I
Right.
didn't quite get it.
We didn't anticipate the concerns of the CQ, but we'll be a little bit more diligent. We'll try and give you more background information and
I mean, the
cull
CEQ in the past has
minutes.
made a recommendation, that they didn't think the money should be spent, it would be better spent elsewhere for
And you can
environmental
do that.
improvements, and that went to the
Right.
legislature along with the review, and the
Uh-huh.
legislature, I think, dropped the proposal.
Andy, we have, every now and then, something will come across that looks so innocuous,
Mhm.
and then we get here,
Yeah, but how do you
and we
know
spend an
what
hour and a
the
half
vendor
talking on it, and all
spent?
these
You don't know
things
the
come up,
price.
and we can't really
We
sometimes
we
predict
bet
it.
lunch and coffee on certain things as we go through the LADS reports and stuff on which ones.
Well, on this one, this is 13 acres here. I mean, if the school sold the property to a developer and he wanted to put a housing development in there, the town of Brookhaven would have decked him right away, and he'd be in there with a full environmental impact statement.
And we would do the same to the highway department if they were clearing 13
Yes,
acres.
yes.
Yeah,
So-
and I think the red flag was that this is 13 wooded acres,
15.
right?
Well, 13 will be cleared.
All right,
Yeah.
but I think that was the red flag.
Yeah. Okay,
One last thing.
okay.
And that's
For your reading pleasure, there's a new Long Island Sound book out, put out by the Long Island Sound Study. So you might be interested in it. It's expensive, but I can tell you
How
that,
expensive?
Is it at the library?
yes, it's well worth reading.
Larry's co-author.
Ah,
Okay, moving on, we have, to talk about other business, our CEQ schedule for 2014. Where did that go? I saw it before. Any issues with it, anybody? What happened?
It's normally the third Wednesday of the month, except for December, which is the
That's
second.
correct, and that's the same as,
In
is that
past
how it
years.
is on here?
Yeah.
That's what it looks like, yes. So everybody's okay with that? All righty.
When we do the
Is there a
commission
motion to
schedule, we
close
should
the
be able to
meeting?
And you have a election next month, so if
Oh,
you
believe
need
me,
to-
I'll check it.
Wait, is there,
February.
Where?
when
Do
we
you want
set the
help
schedule,
doing that part
sometimes
three?
it's like we've
wanna
waited in
stop
the
and do that part?
legislature for, like, I feel like it doesn't
Well,
nicely
what are you gonna,
coincide with our meetings.
So when is your meeting?
traffic study?
Tuesday.
No, that we can't do. Brookhaven will have to do that, or just provide a statement that says it's on 2 town roads,
Well,
this is
that's
the
what I
ABC.
just heard.
Yeah, they can do that,
You have like
but,
10 days,
you know, you
9
need an
days.
opening
And then
paragraph, you need,
Our legislative
you know,
sessions.
I could go over with you all the
sometimes
items
not
that they
always
want.
are
and see.
I
the
already,
night before
well, I
our
have that.
CEQ.
Well, we can talk.
Yeah,
So,
however you
are you
But
saying
I
it
just-
was
the
I've
thing
got-
is
I just
that
don't-
we need to talk.
But I don't
What
know
if we
how,
did the
how willingly all
We're,
that.
we're delving into things
Wednesday
that
instead of the third?
answering
Does that
certain
give you enough
questions
time?
I can't do.
We cannot provide a
Wednesday's
position
the issue.
statement,
Wednesday we
but we
have-
can provide whatever's on the record
You have to stay on Wednesday.
to advise them.
But
So
with
if
the-
there's
with the
deliberations
fourth
at the
Wednesday,
legislature, we can pull the minutes and
Time
attend.
in between.
You know, it's like every month is different. So,
Always there?
not always, but
Close?
It's fine.
that's
Okay,
what it
let's
is.
just leave it.
Maybe we go to Smithers in April?
I know, but I
Out east.
Oh, let's wait till May, it's a little warmer.
I was just
Well,
saying.
you want it
March.
I want it in March, I don't want tips,
wanna, if there's something
All right.
in
but
addition,
if you want,
May is okay.
May is okay.
I'm gonna go to the
Okay.
town.
Okay, so is there a
On those
motion?
big places, I'm gonna go to John Turner to do the.
Motion.
Is there a second? Seconded, all in favor, yes, the meeting is closed. Thank you.
Have a good holiday.